This is the 4-question seller script you need to dominate the seller conversation. Check it out. This is your host and real estate coach, Rafael Cortez. You are listening to the REI Wholesaling Podcast, where every week I bring you the real-life case studies and strategies you need to level up your real estate wholesaling business. If you haven't done so yet, go to reiwholesaling.com. Again, that's reiwholesaling.com. Sign up and get free access to your Wholesaling 101 course. This free training teaches you step by step everything you need to close your next wholesale deal and start making big money now. Fam, what's up? Welcome back to the REI Wholesaling series. Let's talk about the seller conversation. We always talk about discovering, what the seller's issues really are, what the main problem is, how can we come in and solve that problem is one thing that, that stems from this whole initial conversation, right, with the sellers. Now, I've seen some scripts out there and they get super complicated. If you're on the fly and you get a call back from a seller, a lot of times, people tend to get super nervous, especially at the beginning. If you're just starting to wholesale, the tendency to get super nervous because you don't have that script right in front of you. It's almost inevitable, right? I'm gonna give you the 4-question seller conversation that you need to have, all right? It's not, I don't like to call it a script. It's an order of words, but it really opens up the entire thing and it helps you really pull on threads and kind of read between the lines as you're going through the process, as you're trying to figure out what the seller's real issue is. As wholesalers, if we come into a conversation with a seller, we're not focused, all right, listen to this, if we're not focused on finding out what the real problem behind the call is, we're not gonna get to an agreement with the seller, right? If they don't have an issue, if they don't have a need to sell, if there's no distress, either with the property or with the seller, they're better off putting it up on the MLS and selling it through a real estate agent, right? Most of the time though, that's not the case. That's why they come to people like us. So when we are there, there's a lot of guarding that happens from the seller standpoint. How do you have that conversation so the seller starts to open up, right? And really just kind of feed you bits and pieces and clues as you're going through that same conversation so you can figure out what the problem is. A lot of time it's not going to be a money issue thing, because if they wanted the most money for the property and they were able to get that, they would go to the MLS. If they are not, they're going to you, all right? So keep that in mind as you're going through this process. These are the top 4 questions that you need to present. And it's not a script, right? So don't look at it as a script. It's an order, it's a cadence. It's just like the progression of a natural conversation. So let's dive right in. The entire thing, very important, the entire thing needs to be open-ended, okay? You're asking open-ended questions, meaning that they can't just answer with a yes or a no. If you're asking questions and they have the ability to answer with a yes or a no, trust me, your conversation is gonna be very, very short. You're not gonna be able to pull on threads. They're not gonna be able to elaborate and really like that organic conversation is not gonna happen, all right? That's what's a big flaw in a lot of the scripts that I see. All right, so open-ended conversations, these 4 questions are designed to be open-ended, meaning that they're gonna give you more context to talk about after they come back and give you an answer. We are still gonna stick to the 4 pillars, which is the timeline, the condition, the motivation, and the price, right? Each one of these questions gets plugged into each one of those pillars. Question number 1, you're trying to find out the condition of the property. The reason we start with this is because it's an easy answer, okay? They're ready to answer that stuff. If you go straight for the reason of why they're selling and start asking around, motivation, it becomes more of a personal conversation. We need to ease them into that stage of the talk, right? So before we get there, we have to frame things up and create that cadence, right? First question, again, it's gonna be regarding the condition of the property. And you phrase it like this. I have some information and some stuff that I picked up from the internet, but I don't have the full story. Can you bring me up to speed on the current condition of the property? All right, simple. It's simple. It's open-ended. It's not a yes or no. You're not asking, did you remodel the bathrooms? Yes, no. Did you fix the roof? Yes, no, right? It's a very open-ended question. A lot of times what happens, and you'll see this, they'll start to stutter. Why? Because they're trying to think about everything that they've done to the property, and it's just, it's part of a normal flow of a conversation, right? As people get comfortable saying some things, they're gonna get comfortable with that next stage of the conversation. So they're gonna open up to you and they're gonna say, oh yeah, I did some remodeling on the kitchen. kitchen. That happened 5 years ago, and then we maybe had a leak. It created some water damage, so the cosmetic is still there. And they start just being descriptive about the property. What you're doing here is you're reading between the lines and taking note of the real condition of the property. Again, reading between the lines. If they haven't mentioned anything about the roof and they own the property for the last 30 years, that's something that you can pull on a thread from, right? And then elaborate on that question. So use these as launching platforms for the rest of the conversation. Again, it's an organic conversation. The first one goes, again, for the condition of the property. The reason we do that is because it's easy to answer something about, brick and mortar. Type stuff. They're ready for that kind of stuff, right? Question number 2 is gonna dig into the timeline. The reason we dig into the timeline is because they may be saying that they're not in a rush to sell, they can, keep the property for another 10 years and whatnot. But when we drop this question, we find out whether or not, that's true, all right? A lot of times they're gonna give you one side of the story, but they don't necessarily, sellers, they're trying to sell their property, trying to negotiate their deal. So a lot of times they're not gonna give you the full story right out of the gate. Read between the lines. Learn how to read between the lines. And the way that I like to drop that second question is, if we were to come to terms on this, how soon would you like to get paid on this, right? Super simple. You're kind of laying that foundation for, being on the same page as far as terms. And it's a really, really quick delivery. How soon would you like to get paid on this? Again, I want to emphasize that these are questions that you're going to use to launch the conversation, right? This is back and forth. You're saying something, they're giving you an answer, and then you're elaborating on that. You're asking something else. So don't say the question, wait for them to answer, and then move on to the next question. It's going to be a really short conversation if you do that, and you're going to miss a lot of opportunity to discover what the real issue underlying the wholesale of the property is, right? So keep that in mind. These are used to create context and elaborate the conversation from that. So question number 3, we start digging into motivation. At this point, you've been in the conversation for a minute, you've had some back and forth interaction and whatnot. This is not abrasive, it's not super direct. It's not, it doesn't feel like it's a very intrusive, type of question. And but we're trying to find out motivation for the sale, okay? If you don't mind me asking, what are your plans after you sell the property? Simple as that. If you don't mind me asking, what are your plans after you sell the property? A lot of, sometimes you'll get pushback on that. Well, it's private. If that's the case, respect it and whatnot, right? You'll find other ways to get into the motivation through the rest of the conversation. But most of the time, and I'm talking, 97% of the time, if not more, they'll elaborate. Well, no, I want to move out of state, or I'm getting transferred, I'm doing this, I want to move to a better school district. We need to upgrade because, we have kids coming, whatever that case may be, right? That's giving you clues into the motivation of the seller, what's going on, how valid is the previous information they gave you. For example, if they need to relocate and they're going to be up and running in 2 weeks in, a city across the United States, yet they said they could hold on to the property for another 3 years. Are they going to rent it out? What's the case there? So pull on threads. This is a discovery conversation. Again, you're picking up on clues as you're going, and these questions just lay the foundation for that context, okay? Question number 4 is about the price. There is a reason why we leave this to the end of the conversation. Why? Because we already found out the condition of the property. We already found out, what time frame they have in their mind, right? How soon they want to sell, they want to keep, how big of a hurry they're in. We already found that out. We already have some context to the motivation, right? These are stuff that we can put together to craft a solution for the seller. Is it going to be a cash offer? Is it going to be a creative financing deal? Is it going to be an ovation? Whatever the strategy might be, that might fit whatever it is that they're looking for. And at this point, we really have more information, which is very, very much needed to give them a smart response or a smart solution to their problem, right? And this is the price point question. This is going to be a 2-part question. So the way that you drop it, and this is there's a science behind it, right? Pay attention here. The way that you drop that first part is, how much do you need to clear after all debt is paid? Okay, add that last section, after all debt is paid. How much do you need to clear after all debt is paid? Okay, it's easy for a seller to not give you the price if you ask them, how much do you want to sell it for? Like, well, it's not your business. You called me if you're cold calling, right? Or that's why you're giving me numbers. Give me your offer. They'll say 1,000 things, right? But if you ask, how much do you need to clear after all debt is paid, it gives some, gets a little bit more into the details of the thing. They have to break it down. A lot of times they don't have that number readily available, right? So they got to think about that. Now, when they start thinking about that number, they'll usually come back with something, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000, right? That's going to give you some idea of, what their take home should be in their mind, like what they're thinking, right? As a baseline. The second parter, you drop the line of, how much is owed on the property. Okay, simple as that. You don't have to get, dance around it. You just drop it and deliver the line, which is how much is owed on that property after they give you the number that they need to walk away with, and then you do the math. So if they owe 150, they need to walk away with 40. Their mindset is fixed around the idea of $190,000 for this property. Trust me, breaking down the question like this as a two-parter goes a lot further than just asking a seller, how much are you looking to sell for? That's an easy rebuttal. It's an easy, they can brush you off really, really quick. When you break it down into a couple different sections, you're gonna get a better idea. So again, this one addresses the price point issue, right? Two-parter. These are in sequence, okay? We start with the condition. We move on to the timeline. Then we follow with the motivation, and then we end up with the price. The idea that you have to have a script in front of you to have a conversation with a seller is wrong. Sometimes they're gonna catch you in the car, they're gonna catch you at the store, they're gonna call you back whenever you're not in front of a computer. What are you gonna do? Freak out and not have a conversation with a seller because you don't have the script right in front of you? No, stick to these 4 simple questions. You are doing a discovery process, right? When you get to a point where maybe you're on middle ground, then yeah, you can take the conversation to the next level by telling them, hey, listen, I'm gonna do some research, have some more info on this. I'll give you a call back in 30 minutes, when I get back to my computer or whatnot. But these 4 questions are gonna set you up really to have a good, smart, solid conversation with the seller, find out what they're really looking for so you can come in and give them the best solution possible, right? So that's your 4-question seller script. It's tried and tested, so start using it on your next seller conversation. To learn more strategies like this, go to reiwholesaling.com, download your free Wholesaling 101 course, and find out how you can build your own wholesaling business that's gonna yield you thousands of dollars, all right? So with that being said, I hope you liked the video. Do me a favor, drop a comment. It's a 2-way street. I'll catch you on the next one. Let's go make it happen. Stay focused. You got this. Fam, thank you for listening. Every week I bring you the real, the raw, the mindset, the case studies, and the strategies you need to build your own successful real estate wholesaling business. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and don't miss out on real life experience and information that can make you millions. It's time to join the ranks of successful wholesalers and take advantage of one of the biggest opportunities that we have in our lifetime to generate wealth. So go to reiwholesaling.com. Head over to my website, again, that's reiwholesaling.com, and learn how to make big profits, make big money by finding, negotiating, and closing wholesale deals from your own backyard. You've heard the stories, seen the case studies. Stop thinking about it. It's time to write your own. Again, head over to reiwholesaling.com, click on coaching program, book a discovery call, have a conversation with my team, and you might get an invitation to join hundreds of students throughout the country who are leveling up on a daily basis. The writing is on the wall. Hustle is a season. It's not a business strategy. Take action, start building a sustainable and scalable real estate wholesaling business, and join the coaching program today. I will catch you guys on the next one. Talk to you soon. Stay focused. You got this.